like marijuana? I know I do, and we know it's harmless, so that's why it confuses me a little when people get weird around it. People ask me, how come you as a medical marijuana patient oppose 502? I thought it was legalizing marijuana. Well, thank you for asking. Let me tell you, and it's easy to explain. If marijuana were really legal in Washington State, then you could grow it, couldn't you? Cabbage is legal, tomatoes are legal, you can grow those. You don't need anybody's permission. You don't need a piece of paper. You don't need some government guy to come in and tell you, yeah, you can grow that plant. When it's like that, it's going to be legal. Let me tell you another reason that 502 doesn't work for me. They can bust you for driving under the influence of marijuana the day after you smoke it. If you're smoking the good stuff like I am, for most medical marijuana patients, we are never legal to drive because we're always over that 5 nanogram limit. People, they set the limit too low when they're measuring impairment by marijuana on driving. You're not impaired at 5 nanograms if you're used to smoking, especially if you're using large amounts every day as a medical marijuana patient. That's just the way it is. There's another reason that 502 doesn't work for me. Under 502, local municipalities have the power to ban 502 pot shops.
No, they don't.
When they ban 502 pot shops, you create marijuana deserts. And yes, they in fact do have that power. They have been doing it, and 51% of the state would be very surprised to hear they don't ban marijuana when it is banned in 51% of the state already. Now, what that does is create marijuana deserts. That creates places where you have to drive 50 or 100 or 150 miles even to get marijuana. That may be okay if you're a recreational user and you feel like driving 150 miles for a joint. If you're sick, that's not okay. We can't send people 50 or 150 miles to get their medicine. That's just not right. There's one more reason that 502 really doesn't work for patients. That's because under 502, recreational marijuana farmers are allowed to use more than 200 pesticides. Now, you would think that maybe they would test for those pesticides that they specifically said you could use to make sure that unsafe levels of them aren't in the marijuana. Especially if you're a medical marijuana patient with a compromised immune system or compromised liver function, you don't want to be doing no poisoning. Pesticides should not be in your marijuana. Well, they allow those 200 plus pesticides, but they don't routinely test for them. That means that the marijuana in a 502 store will have all 200 of those poisons in there, and you won't know shit about it because they're not required to even tell you the levels of any of those pesticides. Now, if you want to smoke weed smoking pesticides, that's all right, do your thing. I would prefer to have actual organic marijuana. That's some of the reasons that 502 doesn't work for me. Now, 5052 made it even worse because 5052 is basically a death sentence for all the medical marijuana collectives. That means the dispensaries after July 2016 are going to be closing down. That means that in one day, Seattle is going to go from 200 places where you can get marijuana to maybe half a dozen. That means that the price you're going to be paying for that marijuana is going to be 2 or 3 times higher. That means the quality of that marijuana is going to go down. The price is going to go up. They're not going to be testing it for pesticide. 502 and 5052 don't just hurt patients, they hurt everybody. It's bad policy, it's a bad law. We got a lot of work to do before we have truly legal marijuana in Washington State. I think we should all be aware of that. I think it's kind of puzzling when we have some people calling themselves patient advocates when they actively support legislation that is killing the medical marijuana community. You better listen to people real careful when they appoint themselves your leaders and get up here and tell you they're protecting you, because some of the people that's been up here on the stage today supported 5052. Some of the people that's been up here on the stage today supported legislation that stabbed this community in the back. And they'll get up here in front of you and they'll tell you what big supporters they are of you. Well, there's a way out of this. Always, when we have any threat of our democracy left, there's a way out of it. We got a couple of ways out. We got to find a way to a better marijuana law in Washington State. One of the ways that we can get to a better marijuana law in Washington State is right here on this banner, r76no.org. We have to repeal 502. We have to repeal this bad law so that we can have a better one. What we're going to do is change the bad parts of 502 with R76 no, and make it so that this is a tolerable law at least, so that we can work with this. Now when 5052 is repealed by R76, as it will do, then we'll get rid of some of this bad stuff that's happening to patients as a result of it. Now there is another initiative that is currently active. It's sponsored by Kurt Ludden. It's I-1372. It would accomplish the objective of helping the patients by writing the law the way it should have been to begin with. Now if you with me think that we should support patients over profits, if you think that people's health and lives are more important than some guy making plenty of money on this 502 store, then we're in agreement on this, that we have to fix this thing. Now, when I say I like marijuana, yeah, I mean, I don't mind the side effect of marijuana, which is to get you high. I have no problem with that. In fact, I find myself enjoying it. But the fact is, marijuana helps me face nausea and pain. The only thing conventional medicine can offer me for that nausea and pain is heavy pharmaceuticals that are bad for my liver, which is already compromised function. It's bad for my stomach, which is already compromised function. I don't want these pharmaceutical poisons. No, thank you. I prefer to have options. I prefer to have the option of natural, organic, non-toxic cannabis. I prefer to be able to grow my own cannabis. And it's not going to be legal until everybody has the right to do so. Sure, they're leaving patients with the right to grow 4 to 6 plants in this state, but as long as patients are the only people in the state allowed to grow, guess what that does? That puts targets on all of our backs. Not just for rip-off, but for the cops. A lot of these cops wish that we couldn't grow any marijuana at all. So if you're allowed to grow 6 plants and you might have 8 or 9, there's a lot of cops going to be willing to get you for that. Now, any law that creates new felony violations for patients who are continuing to treat themselves the way they have since 1998, in the 17 years that we've had this medical marijuana law, any law that turns any of that behavior into felonies is not good policy, people. When you see patients start going to prison for treating themselves with the only medicine that works, we're going to realize we've got to do this better, Washington. Like you, I like marijuana, I like legalization. I think that the laws against marijuana are crazy, they're stupid, they're ignorant, and a lot of the people against marijuana, the same could be said for them. That's the reason we've got to come to a more enlightened way of dealing with this plant. This plant has been a gift to us on many levels. It's time to start treating this plant and the people that use it and the community that has grown around it with the kind of respect that it deserves. Thank you very much. You might want to check out cokesignals.com. I write also for Northwest Leaf magazine. Starting in June, I'll be writing for Dope magazine. And I write for Hemp News, hemp.org/news. Thank you all. See you next time.
Thank you, Elliot.